Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon in the midst of everything you've got going on in life and with your family. I look forward to these conversations. I look forward to these, what we call family meetings, where we have a little more time to talk about the things that are happening at Ashley Ridge Church, because this is a family, it's a community, and a really big deal that we get to do life together. And so I want to take just a few minutes this afternoon and share some things with you, kind of give you the lay of the land and updates about things that are happening at Ashley Ridge. And then we're going to get back together in about 4 weeks for part 2 of this family meeting, where I'm going to have even more to share with you at that point, and also an opportunity to spend a lot of time doing some Q&A about anything you're curious about. And so today, though, I want to talk to you. I want to share some things with you. We are so thrilled, to be sitting here. I'm sitting on stage at Ashley Ridge High School. We're so thrilled that in March they gave us the green light to come back inside. And we had such a great 6 months as we worshiped outside together, doing things creatively when we couldn't come inside. But my goodness, it was so exciting to be able to come back in and open up all of our different ministry environments. And so at Easter, we had such a great Easter celebration. We did 9 baptisms at Easter. That was incredibly fun to worship in that way. And then starting in the month of May, we have been back inside for what we called our restart, which was, for lack of anything better to call it, we never stopped, we never closed in the last 14 months, but it was a restart of all of our different environments. And so it has felt really good to be back together in these ways. It's been really great to see our AR kids back in their small group environments and AR littles in their small group environments. In our worship time together, I actually today just finished up a series called Along Obedience in the Same Direction. And I'm grateful that we got to start there from a message capacity, because this does feel like a new season. And part of what I was needing and wanting us to grasp as a church is that this is the life of Christian faith, has ups and downs and everything in between, but it is a long, continuous walk together. And my hope in this new season is that we're ready to dig in even more together, to put our feet in the ground, to talk about the big pieces of life, whether that's forgiveness, suffering, joy, and a real trust. That's what I talked about today. So these have been good conversations, and I look forward to coming back to more of that. Next week, we're starting a new series called The Bible for Grown-Ups. And week 1, you're going to get to hear from Andy Stanley, and then I'm going to pick it up from there. But a really great series about this book that many of us have read in different ways throughout our lifetime, but a different conversation about how we look at it as adults, and what this book is and where it came from, and how it informs our faith and tells us about our faith, but isn't our faith itself. So we're going to talk about a lot of the history, which you guys know I love. That's all coming up. The other exciting change that has happened for us is that we have shifted our AR student ministry to Sunday mornings. We did that throughout the time we were outside because of the space we had and the time that we had. And heading back into this restart season, we realized it was a great opportunity for us to have so much traction around our families being here all at the same time and the students having that environment. And so on Sunday mornings, our students come in and they worship with us in this space for the first half, and then they head out to their own space where they do large group time and their small group time. And we have been seeing them thrive. We've been seeing just upwards of 40 students on a Sunday that are heading over there and digging into their faith together. And a few of them are just a few weeks away from heading to Big Stuff Camp. We filled all of our spots for Big Stuff. So thrilled that they're going to be able to do that this summer, since they weren't last summer. And so we have a great group of students and leaders that are heading down to Panama City Beach, Florida in just a few weeks. And so I want to invite and encourage you to be praying for that experience for our students. That really is such a big deal and a faith-building opportunity for all of them. The other thing I want to let you know about is about AR Kids. And so with the restart, we've been having a lot of fun having them back in their small groups. But one of the things that we wanted to continue after hearing from so many of you coming out of our outside experience, where parents were functioning as their kids' small group leaders. And I know that for some of you, that puts you in a new position and maybe even what felt like a hot seat position. But we put some great tools, and by we, I mean our incredible kids team, put some amazing tools in your hands as parents to be able to engage faith with your kids. And so once upon a time, we used to have Sundays where we brought kids in here for worship to try to let them experience faith through their parents' eyes and with us in this capacity. But what this has really shaped for us was the value of parents learning and sitting in faith on their kids' level. So we're calling these Family First Sundays, and on the first Sunday of every month, starting in June, we're going to have our elementary families worshiping together in the cafeteria. And the way that's going to work is everyone's going to start together in here, and so you're going to come into the auditorium to worship. We're going to sing some songs together, and then AR kids that are kindergarten through 5th grade will be dismissed with their families over to the cafeteria. Littles is going to keep happening like it always happens. If you have a little nursery through preschool, you're going to drop them off and get your tags, and they're going to learn in their environments, and we're going to keep that consistency factor for them. But for our families on that first Sunday, we're going to send you out and let you have that experience together, and I'll continue then teaching in this room with everybody else. So that's something new that we're going to try just because we heard from so many of you that went, that was valuable. That was a great opportunity to sit with my kids and to engage in this conversation. So as we continue to do these things together, one of the things that we've recently gotten back to doing as well is being live online in our Sunday morning broadcasts. So throughout the COVID experience, our Sundays that we were recording were actual recordings that we were filming the week leading into the Sunday. And so we were, our band had recorded a bunch of music throughout the year, and I would preach every week to the camera, and that would be our online worship experience. Well, we are back to a place where we are sharing online what's happening live in this room, and with that, there are new opportunities and opportunities to connect together in this space. One of the really cool things we know is that we have people that worship with us that don't live anywhere close to Summerville, South Carolina, and we love that. We love that there is an extension, and there are some ways of doing ministry together in that capacity. But we also really believe that something happens in this room together. And so we want to try in the best ways we can to encourage you, if you are in the area, to be here, but then also bridge between those two experiences. So as you can tell, a lot of things have come back, and a lot of things are reorienting in some really great ways around things we've learned and things that have been really great opportunities for us. The last one I want to mention before I shift into talking about the building, and I know that you're all eager to hear where we are with that, is expanding the table. Expanding the table is our food truck ministry. That's not just the food truck, but it is a ministry that is geared around feeding people in our community. And for several years, we've had this food truck that has served free meals several days a week in the Summerville community. And then when COVID happened, we did have to stop serving hot meals for a while. And so we were really grateful and excited to see Hearts for Summerville get off the ground as an organization, and they've been doing phenomenal ministry in the Summerville community, and Expanding the Table has been able to be one of many partners for them in continuing to provide bagged lunches. And so we have parts of our cooking team every week that have been making 120 bagged lunches so that when Hearts for Summerville goes out to the different parts of the community that they're in, they can take along those sandwiches and chips and desserts that y'all have been making and putting together. That being said, we are in the process of putting the pieces back together and getting ready to serve hot meals again. And so one of the pieces behind that is that before last year and when everything shut down, we were in the process of making Expanding the Table its own 501c3. The reason behind that is that there are a lot of organizations that have grants and can match even charitable giving that don't work with churches, but can very much and are eager to work with things like that food serving ministry. And so in setting it up in that capacity, we're trying to open up that ministry and the ability to do even more with that truck and serving food in our community, but it's still very much part of Ashley Ridge Church, part of the heart of who we are and what we do in the community. And so we look forward to continuing to partner with Hearts for Summerville, and we also look forward to getting those hot meals back in process and heading out to the community. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're hopeful by July that will be in motion, and there's going to be a lot more volunteer opportunities for you and for your family. All right, this is a lot. This is fun, though. This is really fun to get and sit and talk with you about all of the things that God is allowing us to do and the environments that we're getting to create, because at the heart of everything we do is this idea that we want to inspire people to follow Jesus. We want to inspire people to follow Jesus, and we want to do it through getting them involved in the life and the ministry of Ashley Ridge Church. And so when we talk about these different ministry areas and these environments and these opportunities, everything is geared toward how can we create spaces for people to encounter God, for them to be inspired to follow Jesus, and for them to feel like they are not alone in that journey, and that we are truly growing in that way together. And that takes a lot of different forms and fashions. And so the things we do, whether it's small groups or the food truck, our worship together, our kids' environments, our student environments, it's all geared toward that idea, which is why for years now, even since before we began meeting at Ashley Ridge Church, we were dreaming about having a home base for that ministry, knowing that we want a place, a space that can be home base and just the ground beneath us as we go out into the community and as we dream about all of the different ways, new ways, recreated ideas and ways that we can be about that effort, be about the idea of showing people who Jesus is and showing up in our community and building those relationships. They're really important things. And so the high school has been an incredible partner for us, even right up until this year, opening the doors for us to come back in, because y'all, they let us in first, and that's a big deal, and we're really grateful for Dorchester District 2, and especially Ashley Ridge Church. Brooke Matthews, I almost said pastor, y'all. The principal here at the high school has been so gracious in opening the doors to us again and really partnering together and trying to be a great asset to this community. However, we can't stay here. And I know I've been saying that for a long time, but it's written into even the DD2 language. They are not allowed to have churches or other organizations have a permanent residence in these. So we've been able to stay far past what normally would have been allowed, simply because they know that we've been working toward a home base of our own. And so if I can catch you up quickly, some of you are new to this, some of you have been around, and so I'm not going to be able to cover everything. And so that's where, when we come back in a few weeks for the family meeting, I want to be able to answer a lot of questions. And I also want to encourage some of you who maybe feel like you're catching up to go to 4svl.com and those building updates. When you scroll down, you can sign up for the building updates so that all of the future updates will come to your email inbox. But you can also go back and read the updates to this point and kind of follow along on the journey and get a better sense of where we are. But to kind of fast forward for everybody, we finished paying for land in Summers Corner in February of this year, really March 1st to be exact. We were able to pay that last check. Some of you saw the fun video of Wayne All, our treasurer, taking that check to the bank. He was not at all excited. He was incredibly excited to see us do that. And y'all helped us cross that finish line. That was a really big deal, especially in a year like the one we came through last year, to be able to put that goal out in front of everybody to say, look, y'all, it's time to finish paying for this land that we purchased in 2017. And when we do, it moved us into the pre-construction phase. And I know we're all really eager to get to the construction phase, but there are so many pieces that need to happen and that are happening now that we've done that. And so we crossed that finish line. We burned the note together in March. And then since then, we have been having lots and lots of meetings, lots of them. We've been having meetings with Dorchester County. We've been having meetings with our civil engineers. We've been having meetings with our architects and our contractors. And more than anything, we've been having meetings with Lennar. Lennar is the company that purchased all of Summers Corner and the surrounding areas from West Rock. And they did that around the same time that we closed on our land in 2017. And the interesting thing is that that was the culmination of years of building a relationship with West Rock that led to where we were going to be in the closing and putting all those pieces together. And then just at the same time that we closed on the land, Lennar became the owners. And it's really been then in the last few years that they've gotten their feet under them and have really started to take off in Summers Corner. If you have not been out, I know some of you live there, some of you have kids that go to the schools that are out there, but some of you may not have any reason necessarily to have been out in that direction lately, and I want to encourage you to go drive around Summers Corner. It is unbelievable how much that has happened in the last year. Houses have gone up like crazy. Clayfield Trail that cuts across and will eventually connect Delamar Highway with Summers Drive. That part of the community has gone up. There are already hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses built and being lived in that are there, in addition to the front sections that you can see. You also see land being cleared on 165 on Sundays when you drive out to Ashley Ridge High School. There is so much activity taking place. And since March, when we closed on our land, we have been able, for the first time, to sit down with Lennar and have the conversation about where they're heading with the development and where we're heading with our land and with our building. This has opened up lots of different conversations, especially as we went through the schematic phase of our civil engineering. And one of the images that you're going to see on the screen right now is you're just looking at a bunch of lines, but let me tell you what you're looking at. This is part of our civil engineering schematic design for the utilities. And so part of the reason that we need to have all these conversations with Lennar is they are in process. There is a sewage pump station that they are bidding right now that is the pump station that we're going to tie into temporarily. There's all of these moving pieces about how these things work on the land and the easements that we need to connect to what they're doing, and also lining up the timelines of what they're putting in and when we're starting and how things are going to connect in the immediate and how they're going to connect eventually. So here's what I want you to know, and this is where we're going to come back in 4 weeks, and because these conversations are ongoing, the next meeting with Lennar is this Thursday. I'm going to have a lot more to even dig in with you specifically on that in just a few more weeks. But what I want you to know is that these are the conversations happening. These are confusing conversations in some ways. I've learned a lot about the difference between an 8-inch water line and a 4-inch water line and why it matters and what a gravity line is for sewage. Things that I never thought I would understand more about, but am able to. But in these conversations with Lennar, it's also then allowing our architects to sort of move into the schematic design phase. That's actually what we're rushing toward next. But to start to then make shifts. So we've shown you the layout of the building and the floor plan, and then they're starting to make shifts based on what we understand about the land itself through the civil engineering and about the utilities. And so this next picture that you're now seeing is a picture of that same building that we showed you at our last family meeting, and it looks like it's at a super funky angle shifted. And part of that is going to make a lot more sense down the line, hopefully sooner than later, when we can show you an exterior rendering of our building, because what this gives you is a sense of how we're shifting to accommodate things like retention and pipes and land, but then also build something that's going to be so functional for us in terms of how we welcome people and how we flow traffic and how we move people in and out of that space and create welcome open doors into our kids and family ministry areas and into our worship space. So they're fun conversations, and part of what has happened as well is in sitting down with Lennar and building a relationship with them, it's introduced some additional opportunities that may be out there for us to partner and move in the community. And so one of my specific asks for you today is I want to ask you to be praying for the conversation, for the partnership that's being built, because one of the things I've pointed to since the time we started as a church in 2009 when we were having preview gatherings, and then in 2010 was I was pointing us toward the passage in Hebrews where the writer said that we are people who go to build a city that we can't yet see, but whose foundations and architect is God. And so long ago, when we were out here and I was talking about this Summer's Corner thing, and most of my conversations were, what, where, do we even know about that? It's starting to come to life. And we believe that God is at the foundation of that. And in the same way that West Rock created the language of building a community where people could live, work, and play, Lennar has adopted that, and we have continued to enter that conversation with the idea that we want people to be able to live, work, play, and worship. And that's something that we see as vital to this community and the surrounding areas. We love that God is growing our reach in this season, and he did it partially through a shutdown. And so we find ourselves at this really great place where, because y'all were faithful, even in what we couldn't see in the midst of last year, to continue giving, we met our goals of paying for the land, starting the civil engineering, working with the architects, doing the lab that got us to our floor plans so that we know what we need and what that looks like. And now, as we start to add the layers of specifics, I know that you still can't see it with your eyes, but there is groundwork that is being laid. Quite literally, there is groundwork that is happening and that we're sorting out. And so our hope is, and the reason we're going to do this in two parts, is that in about 4 weeks, we have some critical conversations in the next few weeks that are going to get us far enough to where I can really point to more of a timeline. And I know that's what we're all eager for. We are still pushing toward being able to put a shovel in the ground. Maybe by the end of this year. We would love to think it's by the end of this year. There will be work being done by the end of this year. Whether it's vertical, we don't know, but we're getting there. We are getting there, and things are happening. It's a piece at a time. And so I do want to ask you to be praying for those conversations. Some of the specific things I want to ask you to pray for is we're having conversations about utility options and things that could potentially lower costs and expedite our timeline. And so please be praying. We know that God sent us to this community. That has been something that God has made clear again and again and again. He pushed us out here to an area that was new. We are part of the very foundations that are out here, and we want to fit in that and maximize our ability and be really good stewards of what's going to be possible for us. So when you hear things like lowering costs, especially as construction costs are soaring, that's of huge interest to us, and the idea of being able to potentially expedite a timeline, because we are all so eager to move into that building and to have that space. And again, I want to remind you, the verbiage that I've been using for years now around this is we are building a home base. We believe that we are sent. We want to continue to go out to reach new people, to do new things. There is nothing about this that is about finding a place to settle, and everything about this that puts the legs under us that's going to allow us to do more. And we are incredibly excited about that because, again, I'm going to say this because I want y'all to hear this. We want to inspire people to follow Jesus by engaging them in the life and the ministry of Ashley Ridge Church. That's our privilege, that's our gift, that's what we're about. That's what we get on our knees and ask God to show us what's next and how we put this faith in front in front of our kids and our students and our adults in a way that makes us all want more of him. That's what I talked about this morning in my message. More and more like Christ, and that whole contentment mentality of I have God with me, so I have everything I need. People need that message. You guys know that. People need that message. It's been a crazy year, and the idea of putting a foundation of faith that starts with these conversations we've been having in worship about a long obedience, foundations that sometimes are the very concrete and bricks where people get to come and belong even before they believe and put their trust in Christ. So that's what's happening. There is so much more to come. I'm so grateful for the people whose hands are in this work week in and week out, volunteers in our church that are so invested in this and putting their expertise right in the middle of this. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to have a lot more detailed information about what those next steps look. But if I can just give you, here's the 30,000 foot view to wrap up here, is that we have done the beginning of the civil engineering schematic work. There is more of that to come, to the tune of about $100,000 is what that costs. And what that does is that gets us far enough that the architects have everything they need to then finish a schematic design that becomes construction documents. And so what also happens in that process with the civil engineering in those next phases is that gives us everything that then goes directly to the Planning Commission for approval. That's going to start happening in the next few months. And so I do want to ask you, encourage you, and invite you to stay in this project with us. We have decided to leave our building fund open. For a long time, we talked about being a one-fund church, but this project is something that is big and it's just, it costs differently than what we do. And so at any point, you can give, and we invite you to give, and you guys have been so faithfully giving to Ashley Ridge Church and funding our operational ministry. You may remember we froze our budget for last year, and this year we have stuck with that. We've even been able to build some margin through COVID in some ways, and that has all been used to get us down this road. And so when you give to the church and we hit that operational budget, everything above and beyond also filters into this building project, but you can also give above and beyond at any point to this building project. And right now, when you're giving, that's allowing us to move further into the schematic work. It's giving us some of the working capital that we need so that when we need to pull in our contractors and our architects to work through and get into the nitty-gritty and give us their expertise on these pieces, it's allowing us to move forward in that. Other things that it's allowing us to do is our architects are ready to put together an exterior rendering. I know that you're eager to see what this church looks like from the outside and to get that picture in your head, to put it somewhere where we continue to pray over it together. And so this is a project in motion. And so I do want to invite you and ask you to continue to give to that. Our hope for this year is that we are going to be able to give about $200,000 above and beyond our operating budget into this building project, which is going to keep us on this timeline forward. And then what it'll also allow us to do as we take these steps forward, it'll get us to the point when we will get our construction loan to take on the bulk of the project. And so hopefully that gives you a sense of where we are and what's happening right now. So sign up for the building updates at forestvale.com. Derek Harris, our project leader, does an excellent job. He tries to do it once a week sometimes, but at least every other week, putting an update up there just to let you know the conversations that are having. But then please plan to join us back here in about 4 weeks. We'll have a date for you soon, but we want to do that both online and in person. So we've got to coordinate with the school and figure that out, but we'll get you a date soon. It'll be about 4 weeks from now. We're going to get back together. I'm going to give you more clarity on the next few steps and also have a shared time of question and answer. So thank you so much for giving me this time now, for the privilege of doing this together and being part of a family together. I want to pray for us and then get y'all back to whatever you're doing. God, You have been consistently faithful to us, and we're grateful. And we know that we cannot always see, and most of the time we don't see all the pieces that are at work and all the things you're doing and all the things you're making possible. But God, I pray that we don't miss it whenever those things get revealed. Along this way, whenever one more piece of the puzzle gets revealed, God, I pray that we would be people who celebrate. Celebrate that you're faithful. Celebrate that you're moving us a direction. Celebrate that you are allowing us to be part of a vehicle you're using to point people to hope and faith and life in Jesus Christ. And God, that is our everything. Keep us faithful to that task above all else. Keep our eyes wide open. God, I just pray that we would continue to see and believe for greater things that you have for us in the name and for the sake of Jesus. And so, God, thank you for being with us. Thank you for giving us all that we need. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, guys, see you back in a few weeks.